All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. So thank you for being here this evening. We have a little bit of a smaller crowd. You guys can feel free to move up to the front if you'd like, but we will try to keep this a little bit informal. I want to thank a lot of city staff for being here today, and it is an exciting thing that we get to do. We are here to introduce you to Akron's new Fire Chief, Leon Henderson.
Thank you.
So for many of you, Chief Henderson needs no introduction, but we thought it was important as he starts this new role as chief that we have an opportunity to have a town hall with the community, to have time for some discussion. There obviously is a lot of connection between Akron's fire service and the community, from so many runs each day to fire prevention work to all kinds of other work. And so I think it'll be an opportunity to kind of have an initial conversation and talk about not only your background and your vision, but also just some of the plans that we have across the fire department.
Copy that.
Right. So just as a little bit of background, I have some notes here. Chief Henderson has been with the department for over 3 decades. Exactly how many years is that?
You make me sound old. 34 years, sir.
34 years. He is a proud graduate of Akron Garfield High School and a veteran of the U.S. Army. He began his distinguished career with the fire department in 1990 and has risen through the ranks, serving as a dispatch supervisor lieutenant, as a captain safety officer, as district chief since 2018, and then deputy chief since 2022. His extensive training and certifications reflect his commitment to excellence and continuous improvement. He's undergone training in FEMA's community preparedness and various advanced incident command classes, OPATA law enforcement training at the SACS Training Academy, and a NAUI certified rescue diver.
Yes.
I am not a rescue diver. He is also a state certified fire inspector and instructor. He's also completed arson investigation at the National Fire Academy and received specialized information technology training. In his role as deputy chief, Chief Henderson has demonstrated exceptional leadership, fostering a culture of adaptive leadership. You can talk a little bit about that term of adaptive leadership as we go on. Also promoting diversity within the department, achieving a historic 44% minority recruitment rate in the 2024 Akron Fire Department graduating class. And his commitment to community safety is reflected in the creation of fire prevention education programs, which ensure the safety of Akron businesses and our Akron public schools and our students. Beyond that technical expertise, Chief Henderson is a proactive leader in promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. He served on the city's Racial Equity and Social Justice Task Force, launched the Akron Fire Department Human Relations Committee, and designed a job recruitment task force in collaboration with other city departments and local organizations to enhance employment opportunities. And that's just on duty. Off duty, Chief Henderson is very involved in the community and also is obviously very committed to his family, to his wife, and to their son. And also is an avid adventurer, traveling all over the world, doing things that I would never dream of doing. But I think it all bespeaks Chief Henderson's commitment to living life to its fullest, to pursuing excellence in everything he does. And that's true as an individual, that's true as a family member, that's true as a community leader, and that's true as fire chief. So I'm really proud of the opportunity to appoint you into this role, and really kind of want to hear just a little bit more about you, about your background, about how you got here, and about some of your vision for the department.
No problem, sir. First of all, I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for coming out. And I know it's kind of rainy weather out there, so I want to thank you for that. And I also want to thank the citizens of Akron for providing us with support over the years. With issue 4 passing overwhelmingly, that's been able to allowing us to buy personal protective equipment, purchase new equipment, build new fire stations. I don't know if anybody's heard, we have a brand new station, Station 12, will be opening within the next few months. So I don't want to put a date on it, so I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. But Station 12 will be opening this year, so I would love for you all to come out for that open house. And the mayor said we have, I have adaptive leadership. What that means is I grew up in a community where I was on public assistance. I lived in public housing. So I have the ability to see people for who they are. I accept people no matter what level they are, and I'm able to communicate with anybody on any level, whether it's a diverse, when I say the word diversity, it's not about just racial diversity. It's about mindset diversity. It's about the age diversity. When you're able to talk to someone that's a millennial, when you're able to talk to somebody that's like a baby boomer or baby buster as myself, you have to be able to communicate effectively through all demographics of ages. And when you're looking at as far as our delivery system, I can't be more prouder of the men and women of the Akron Fire Department. The thankless jobs they do on day in, day out. We have several of my brothers and sisters here tonight, and they can tell you about their experiences through, and how we've grown together, how we've been able to help the community, how we're able to provide preventative measures to, as far as when our community service team, as far as installing smoke detectors. Now we have, with the thanks to our Fire Prevention Bureau and our grant team with Chief Moyer's assistance, we just got a grant for $76,000. That's going to purchase 750 carbon monoxide detectors. So that means prevention, mitigation is what we're all about. When you look at the resources we deployed this year alone with our MCU unit, which is our mobile crisis unit, that's a unit that has a police officer, a clinician, and a firefighter. So we're there to go see our customers, see their basic needs met. We have our REACH unit, it's a resource advocacy. That unit installs shower handles for elderly. So when you look at the most vulnerable demographic in the city of Akron, you're dealing with the young people, first of all. Then you're dealing with a demographic of, we have a population right now of elderly just approaching like 13 to 14%. And when I say elderly, I'm looking at the age, over the age of 75 and above. So those are that vulnerable area where they have those gaps and they don't have that wraparound support. With what we're doing now, looking at the future and using innovation, using different models as far as delivery models, we're able to kind of fix and step into those gaps. And I have other ideas on how we can look forward to rebuilding the future for the city of Akron, how we can look at some of our vacant housing issues and how we can restructure and reimagine what we can do in the future. I have a lot of plans that I would love to talk to the mayor one day about. And that's me in a nutshell at the end of the day. So I'll take a step back. And looking at the adaptive leadership also, when you're looking at not just the diversity aspect of it, but when you look at the inclusion, and a lot of times when you're a male and I'm a black male, I understand there's that inclusivity when it comes to certain organizations, when it comes to being awarded opportunities that others have not been awarded. My whole goal and my mission is to make things fair and equitable where we in the city of Akron is an oasis where people will want to come to work. Because we can't pay you more money, we can't compete with other departments, but the number one reason why people leave their jobs, the number one reason is bad management and bad bosses. And my job is to mentor each and every person to treat our customers with dignity and respect and kindness. That costs nothing. So that's my vision.
There we go. So I think we're going to get into a couple of those things. And I think I wanted to start by talking about that, about retention and recruitment. And I know we have a challenge with this across city government, across safety forces, but particularly with fire department, right? Getting people to take the test is not as easy as it was a decade ago or 2 decades ago. What do you think are some of the things we need to prioritize when it comes to retention and recruitment?
That's a complex question, and I kind of can go back. Let me take a step back in history. Since I've been here 3 decades, our call for service volume. So first of all, I want to thank you, Mayor, for getting our authorized staffing back to where it was at its highest level in 3 decades. So for all of you who don't know, we are anticipating hiring another class. Our strength right now is at 380. We're going to be at 400 personnel the first time in over 3 decades. But what that means is, we were at 400 3 decades ago, but in the 90s, our call for service volume was 25,000. That was across the boards, 25,000 EMS fire calls the city of Akron had with 400 personnel. Now we are averaging 50,000 call for services per year. And what that means is when we've deployed 2 more med units, we've deployed an alternative response vehicle that takes low acuity calls, and we still cannot keep up with the volume of the needs of our community. And we're just not unique in the city of Akron, it's nationwide. And with it being nationwide, the hospitals are overused, and that preventative measure that I talked about, going out and talking to the public and treating them before they get to that point of no return, that's going to be key. And when we looked at the 2000s, our call for service volumes was floating around 35,000 K per year. But now we're at 50,000 K. And when you're looking at the retention part alone with the burnout factor, when people are leaving, if you look at those exit interviews, people are leaving because of the call for service volume that we have in this city. And they're going to other departments. But now, what does it cost to replace that resource, that individual we just lost? It's just not a regular job as far as just a skilled job where they have one discipline. With a firefighter in the city of Akron, you're a paramedic, you're a firefighter, and you're also an EMT. And if you look at the matrix, and I'm an analytical data guy, to replace that employee that we just trained and we lost, it's going to take 300 to 400% more effort to get us back to where we were. So, what is the solution to actually that retention? It's treating people with respect. Looking at when I came on the job, the management style was, you should be lucky to have a job. My management style is, I'm glad you're here, how can I help you stay? You have to get to every individual, everybody's different. And to have the emotional intelligence as a leader, that is a must in this time. So that's going to help the retention part.
Oh, absolutely, I agree. I mean, treating everyone with dignity and respect isn't just about our residents, it's also about the men and women who work at the city of Akron, who are doing difficult jobs each and every day, responding to people's most difficult day, So actually, in relation to that, one other thing that we think a lot about, especially with the fire department, is officer safety, right? And making sure, from a whole health perspective, that someone is safe and is healthy. Tell me how you think about that.
So with me being our former safety officer in the city of Akron, how I think about that is a holistic approach. And what I mean by that is called self-care. I implore everyone when they're off duty to have that outlet, whether that outlet is working out, whether that outlet is talking to someone, whether that outlet is actually using some of the resources we have as far as the safety forces. We have also our peer support, and we have our CIT teams. And recently, we have had an unofficial chaplain for the Akron Fire Department. Hopefully, he can become the official aspect of the city of Akron. We have our Pastor Krabs, the chaplaincy service that he advocates for. So those are things that we try to basically push as far as that burnout factor. And when it comes to overall health, the holistic health aspect of it, I remember at the time it was Chief Tucker. One of the individuals asked me if we can get a sauna at the fire stations. And I said, a sauna at the fire stations, are you kidding me? How am I going to be able to sell that? And he said, well, other fire stations have it. So I'm a curious individual. So I go to Cleveland, I go to Columbus, and I reach out to this vendor called Sauna Ray. That's the company's name. With that alone, there's what you call a BUS, blood, urine, and sweat. When we go to fires, we have these impurities, things that we cannot see, the invisible killer. And with those metals and toxins, they get into our skin. We were able to purchase those devices at our new fire stations, and personnel are required to get in those chemical decon unit. They get in that chemical decon unit, and they sweat out all those toxins. So my overall goal, and what I will promise everybody that I hire and promise everybody that is on this department, my role as the chief of this department is not to just use you as a resource while you're on the fire department. My job is to make sure you have the healthiest living when you retire from this job, because I want to see you whole. I want to see you enjoying your life. We have a few retired firefighters here, and I see one in the back, Ray Minnick back there. And the thing about Ray Minnick was a plumber, and so it takes me back to back in my early days. When we would do what you call salvage and overhaul, we would basically do it without a tank, and the captain would say, it's a little bitey in here, but it's all clear. They didn't have the intelligence to understand that was the most dangerous time for fires, because what happens with technology, with synthetics, when they burn, those cancerous carcinogens get into our systems. Those were the most dangerous times during that time when it was called bitey. So Ray Minnick devised this mask with these filters, this canister, and I actually bought one. And people would look at us like we were like these Martians with these masks on, and they say, take that thing off, it's hard to breathe. I said, it's hard to breathe, but I want to live. So that's reality.
And we have to be focused on, what some of those cutting edge technologies are,
Yes.
because, there are things that, like you said, dangers that we can't even see with the eye. The last thing before we get into Q&A from the audience, wanted to talk a little bit more, you touched on it, but about EMS. So, we had the situation last summer where we went to now responding to, all of those non-emergency transports, right? Obviously, we respond to all calls, but doing those emergency transports, effectively, maybe doubles the amount of transports that we do now to our local hospitals. Can you talk about how we're approaching that and how you want to approach it going forward?
So how we're approaching that, we've basically inherited from our exterior vendors that we used back in the day as AMR. We have consumed 13,500 calls that we do that transport now. And far as looking at the holistic approach to how to solve it, it's two ways to solve that problem. What you've done is given us the additional staffing. That's helped. Far as deploying additional units to actually cover those call for services, that's helped. The other part that's really helped is decomboing up our stations, because now, so let me explain the combo approach that we've done for years, and thanks to the mayor, we've been able to decombo. When you're at a station that comboed, if there's a call for service that comes in, if you're on the fire truck or if you're on the med unit, whichever call came in first, you jumped on that particular rig and took care of that call. But if it was an EMS call, that engine was just there with nobody to staff it. There was no coverage for that resource in the community. We had additional resources, auxiliary stations around there, but that resource that was in your community was unavailable because we had a combo unit. But so that approach, decomboing up all our units, that's helped. Using the alternate response vehicle, taking the low acuity calls, that's helped. The reach vehicle, the mobile crisis unit, deploying those additional resources has helped kind of stave off that complete break.
Yep. Thank you very much. So before we get into the Q&A, I did want to recognize Samara Vines, who's here from Congresswoman Amelia Sykes' office, and she has a recognition for the chief. Samara? Yeah.
So my name is Samara. I'm here on behalf of the Office of Congresswoman Amelia Sykes. We're here to present Mr. Ron Henderson with a recognition as the new fire chief in this position. This position reflects the years of hard work and dedication and perseverance that you've invested in your career and your community. Your commitment has remained steadfast, the hallmark of concerned and responsible citizenship. You have proved your commitment to our community as you've served for the City of Akron Fire Department for 34 years. 34 years, that's a lot. Beginning as a firefighter and paramedic in 1990. Through your unfaltering commitment, you have earned respect and appreciation of your friends, family, community, and colleagues. Again, it is my pleasure to congratulate you on this recent achievement and extend my wishes for many more years of continued success.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, they make me look very old because when she said that 33 and a half decades, and I'm like, wow.
Chief has been on the fire department longer than I have been alive. With that being said, we are going to move into questions. So I have a number of questions here. I did not write these questions, so I cannot be held accountable for them. But if you have further questions, Susie is walking around with the note card, so please feel free to share your thoughts and questions. So first of all, Chief, if you had a wish list for the department, what would be your top 1 or 2 wishes?
A wish list for our fire department. That is a really good question. Thanks for. So with that being said, everything that I wish for, I get, correct? So I would like a brand new fire station for every one of our fire stations. I would like 500 personnel. I would like there to be brand new rigs in our stations. That's high platitude. Coming down to earth, when you look at the wish list, my wish list is, as far as our men and women, I wish they felt appreciated every single day through public safety. And that means our brother and sisters in the police department, in the fire department, you know, we're here to help at the end of the day. So my wish list is for me to, at the end of the day, to have 0 call for services, because that means our proactive approach worked. So that's my wish list.
Thank you. I think it's clear that, you know, the way that we're going to try to address all of these issues is by being as proactive as we possibly can,
Yes.
getting ahead of things before they turn into emergencies. What is one thing that you feel is working well within the fire department right now?
The one thing that is working well, when the rubber meets the road, when we're in an emergency situation, everybody is working as one. Our personnel are well trained. They know exactly what to do, no matter how chaotic the situations are. And it couldn't have been a more prouder moment that I had was the way they interacted to the first mass casualty incident in the city of Akron on June 2nd on Kelly Avenue. The impact of that scene alone, with all the moving pieces, with all of the transports, that made national news. And when I look at our men and women, the way they handled that situation, it was absolutely incredible. So when I look at what we do well, those are the things that we do well. When the rubber meets the road, we go into action, we are press the metal to the floor, and we respond.
Absolutely. I, just echo your thoughts about June 2nd. The police and fire responding to that call were running into, a warm or hot situation, right? It wasn't a stabilized situation. And yet we're able to, address, more than 24 victims, bring people to multiple hospitals, secure locations. It really is incredibly admirable work. So there's a fun question here. When did you first decide to join the fire service?
Oh, when I first decided to join the fire service, it wasn't by me signing up to be on the fire department. I was in college, engineering student, struggling student, and I got a job with the city, and I was the interdepartmental mail boy. That's what they called me back then. I was a young man. I was young as young Isaiah back then. So with that being the case, the mayor saw how hard I worked every day. The service director, Ray Capper, it was at the time it was he wasn't the council president at the time. It was Marco Somerville was a ward councilman. They got their heads together. It was a seasonal job. They made it a full-time job. And from 1988 to 1990, I was a mail boy. And the mayor saw me one day getting on the elevator. He says, "Hey, did you sign up for the fire department?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, why not?" I said, "Well, I'm going to be an engineer." He said, "What are you doing for lunch?" And Mayor Plaswellick took me to a restaurant called Bilbo's on Main Street. And he said, "Let me tell you about the fire department." He said, "If I wasn't the mayor, I would be a fireman." I said, "Why?" He said, "They work 90 days a year." I said, "Where do I sign up?" And I signed up, and the rest is history. and just to take a step back, so you mentioned about people signing up for the test now. So when I took the test back in 1990, 5,000 people signed up. 3,500 people sat for that test. That's just the facts. Now we are happy and jumping for joy when we get 1,000 people signing up for the test.
No, I knew it was going to be a good story. I didn't know where it was going to go. And 3.5 hours later, you guys walked out of Bilbo's. But big shout out to Mayor Plaswellick for having that foresight with you. So Akron and Summit County have reputations for being very collaborative. Many organizations work together well for the betterment of citizens. What kind of partnerships and collaborations are of interest to you?
So what's of interest to me is what we're doing right now with the Red Cross when it comes to our fire smoke detectors, because that's a preventive measure that saves lives. With the Red Cross, they provide the smoke detectors. Our team in fire prevention, we do the installs. That collaboration is just invaluable. And now that we have the CO detectors with the 750 we can purchase, that's going to be an additional install we can do with the Red Cross. And if we could basically expand that to get additional resources from different entities within the county, I would love to ensure that every home in the city of Akron has a CO detector and a smoke detector.
Back in the day, I was a city lawyer. I actually went on one of those Saturday morning installs. We met at Red Cross, and then we went out into West Hill. And, it really was eye-opening to me. You'd have folks who had smoke detectors that, were original to the house or had not been touched. And, it's easy to just kind of not pay attention to it. Now they make them, better so they won't stop beeping at you until you change it.
Technology with the lithium battery.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, but I can talk about another joint venture that I helped spearhead was our collaboration with Summit County Building. Summit County Building, their building code is different than the Ohio Fire Code. But with that being said, when we are trying to be proactive and preventative with businesses or establishments or different facilities, we're able to go in and do a joint inspection, and we're able to actually ensure they are using best practices and keeping that facility safe.
Can you talk a little bit more about fire prevention, and particularly the REACH team and some of the work that they do?
So the fire prevention aspect is the mitigation. So the first thing that we do when you have a business if you have like rental properties, we go in, and if you're in the schools, we do the emergency evacuation plans. We do all of this for different entities. So with that being said, what we do with the fire prevention aspect is we go in and we make sure that facility is safe through a safety inspection. We go through and look for all the violations. We look for like tire shops. We make sure they're in compliance. We do those things. We also add code from time to time. When it comes to open burning in the city of Akron, now we're able to do open burning. But this is the tail part to that. But when it becomes a nuisance, you have to let it out. You have to extinguish that fire. Recently with fireworks, I just did a public service announcement, stating it's illegal in the city of Akron for fireworks. And in the paper yesterday, I don't know if you read that every community is experiencing illegal fireworks, even in the city of Akron. So preventing those things, we're trying to ensure that we're keeping the city safe. When it comes to reach, you asked about, that's the EMS component. We're giving elderly personnel or people that have disabilities, we're going in making sure their home is safe. We're advocating for them.
No, and it's so important to make sure people have those grab bars to make sure they have those physical installations in the house. Some of the folks in my neighborhood need that public service announcement about the fireworks. So I think continuing on in this vein, we're talking about prevention. Community engagement is something big for the fire department. People love the touch a truck and other things. Can you talk a little bit more about what you think about community engagement and how you want to move forward with that?
I feel community engagement is paramount, and I'm going to tell you why. When I was out lobbying and on the curb, asking people to support issue 4. Issue 4 passed overwhelmingly because of the impact that we have in the community. We are visible. They see us at events. We are there to help. So with that being said, it's paramount to have that engagement component.
So the next question is, I think, if I'm looking around correctly, from the youngest member of our audience, and it says, how do you become a fire chief?
How much time do we have? So this is what I will say to any person that enters into any profession, especially when it comes to a paramilitary organization. Nothing's ever promised. Just understand that. And also understand that life is not a sprint, it's a marathon. You never know where roads will lead you. And if you go in thinking that you want to be a chief, then the number one reason that when I talk to people, when I go out and talk to anyone, even my personnel, when we have bad days, we have grievances, because we can't fix everybody's problem. But I always ask them this one basic question: why did you join the fire department? And the answer that they come up with at the end of the day is, I'm here to help. And when you're here to help and you have hope and you put yourself in the space of that opportunity, then good things happen. That's what I will tell anyone. So have faith, have hope, be diligent, have that commitment to excellence regardless of what you do in life. If I was slacking off and the mayor saw me not delivering mail, he would have never approached me to say, sign up for the test. He would have never took me to a restaurant that I couldn't afford to eat at myself and treated me to lunch if he didn't see that commitment to excellence.
Would have saved you a 3.5-hour lunch, but no, and actually when you were answering it, I was gonna follow up with that, because when I hear you talk, I always think about that commitment to excellence, right? And that's something that we try to instill across the board in the city. You mentioned on this a little bit, and we have Chief Harding here from the police department. Can you talk a little bit about the relationship between AFD and APD and kind of, where that can go? And I mean, June 2nd is one example of that, but talk about that partnership as safety forces.
Well, I got good things to say about Chief Harding back there. In all seriousness, I think the opportunities to collaborate and work together on a broad spectrum of different projects when it comes to the actual overall model of safety. We're doing it right now with the Mobile Crisis Unit. I think there's opportunities for us to collaborate on so many different, issues throughout what we do in our department. And I had the chief of the fire department, Chief Bennett, was at my swearing-in ceremony. And the first thing he did was meet with the service director, the mayor, the police chief. And he says, why can't we just be one team? Not the police department, not the fire department. Why can't we call ourselves public safety? And they rebranded themselves, they called themselves public safety. Because when you call 911, you don't know if you need the police, you don't know if you need the fire department, you don't know if you need both entities. But with that being said, I think, together, because, when you're at the fire department, we handle everything. When you call us, whether it's a rodent in your home, whether it's a cat in a tree, whether, recently somebody dropped a wedding ring over at the Metro Parks, and our unit went and actually got that ring. So anything that you can imagine when people call 911, we respond to. So I think that, as far as when you ask the question, do I see opportunity for us to collaborate on a multitude of issues? Yes, that opportunity is there. And the good thing is, I've worked with Chief Harding when he was the director of the Safety Communication Center. I was his assistant on the fire side. We had a cohesive, harmonious working relationship then, and I'm glad I'm in this role right now because we can even grow that relationship.
Absolutely, and that's part of the reason why I thought it was so important that the police chief and the fire chief be in the mayor's cabinet and be at those cabinet meetings. And it's no disrespect to the role of deputy mayor for public safety, but I think it's so important that as the leader of this organization, as the leader of that organization, that you be at the table, because we really are one team. And I think we see that in good moments, we see that in challenging moments, right? We have to be one team. Another question you touched on a little bit, but I think it would be helpful for you to go into detail. Why do you think diversity matters, and particularly why do you think it matters particularly within the fire department?
How much time do we have? So when I look at the fire department, I recall when I came on the fire department, and when there was no one that you were able to talk to and able to voice your opinions and to basically do that self-analyzation and check you had, being a black man, I didn't have those outlets to actually go and talk to people and understand, is this the rookie treatment that I'm getting, or am I being treated this way because of my race? And if you don't have those checks and balances or somebody to bounce those ideas off, going through what you went through, you just kind of get lost in the shuffle. And I've seen a lot of good women and men leave this department, and especially when you look at, and I can imagine how tough it is for a male-dominated profession for a female. We have, on the Akron Fire Department, a historic number of 32. That may not sound like a big number to everybody out there, but that, when I first came on the fire department, we had 2 females. That was it. And we have a few of our female firefighters here today, and advocating for them, I cannot put myself in a woman's shoes, but I can empathize and understand their struggles, their plights, and the things that they go through, because I have been marginalized at times. I have been mistreated. So I want to ensure that we, if it's not as far as the, like I say again, diversity is not the race factor, but it's your mindset and your experiences. And if you don't have those experiences in life to basically be able to talk to a regular person, or when we go to certain neighborhoods, that's where it really impacts the diversity of the individuals. Because when I used to work in Station 6 district, and when people, I would roll up to people that I knew from playing sports or went to middle school with or high school with, just by my presence on those scenes, no matter how angry they were able to de-escalate just because familiarization. They saw me. I'm from there. So that's why you need the diversity. When it's a woman on the scene, there was times that I've been on calls where we've had issues that a woman couldn't talk to us about. If we had a woman, that could have actually helped de-escalate those situations or help save that life. So yes.
Just bear with me a moment. There was one question about when are the open houses and when is Fire Prevention Week this year?
So Fire Prevention Week is past, but we can have another fire prevention. You know, I believe in mimicking best practices. And Cleveland Fire Department had what you call an ice cream social, and they have open houses. And I said to myself, we had an open house when we were lobbying for funding to get Station 2 and Station 12 repaired. But having open houses on a consistent basis, that is going to be something I'm going to be bringing to fruition. The ice cream socials that I saw from what Cleveland do, I want to bring that to the city of Akron, because I want to be able to engage with the community. I want the community to understand I just work at that particular building, but that building belongs to you, the taxpayers. This is your home. So yes, that's going to be paramount, and we're going to be having an open house soon.
There we go. I'm excited for the ice cream social. Every time I go to our new stations, you know, I think it's a point of pride, especially with issue 4, that we were able to build these state-of-the-art facilities. And you go to Station 4, I mean, Station 4 really is just an incredible facility, right?
Yes, it is.
I feel bad sometimes for like our city service department. You know, so much of the money has gone into things that are below ground that you can't see. Thankfully, with this, you know, you can see it. I think we have to do more to show it off. And you know, Station 12, new Station 12 on South Hawkins presents a new example, a new opportunity to do that.
I totally agree.
That's also, for that matter, why it's so important that we also figure out the future of the police station. I'm just going to put that in there because
whoa. This is my time.
Now,
you know,
very clear.
He can do that later.
Yeah.
But no, I totally agree. When it comes to even the police department, the new headquarters, and what that looks like, because I worked in that facility, and we've done all we could do to make that place a workable place. And when our dispatchers left that facility, that alone helped with retention. That's a fact.
So what can residents do to prevent house fires?
So a couple of things residents can do to prevent house fires. First of all, have an extinguisher in your home. Have working smoke detectors. Check them twice a year at a minimum when time goes up, when time goes back. And call the Akron Fire Department. We have fire prevention team. We can come do a safety check at your facility. Those are things you can do.
You know, you mentioned CO2 detectors.
Yes.
They know that, you know, there was a tragic incident that happened up at the Timbertop facility that really kind of, you know, opened a lot of our eyes to the importance of focusing on CO2 detectors. Can you talk about kind of how, you know, the result of that? And I know there was also a lot of work in the North Hill community as well.
So when you look at the carbon monoxide situation that happened at Timber Top, that was a preventable death with that poor lady. CO is a smokeless, odorless death killer. We have devices that can sense carbon monoxide. What we've done, I wrote a legislation that passed, and you were on council at the time, for CO detectors. In every property, especially we can't enforce your private property because of that's your own property. But when it comes to businesses, when it comes to apartment complexes, we have ensured we made the owner of that particular property install a carbon monoxide detector outside every gas burning appliance. That means either the furnace, the bedrooms. We've actually mandated that to our protocol. And with that being said, I actually sent that protocol in our language, in our legislation, to the state fire marshal. And our chief fire code inspector is Alan Smith. Chief Smith said this is by far the most comprehensive legislation that passed the state fire marshal. Their attorneys looked at it, they tried to poke holes in it. He said this policy is sound, it's saving lives, and it's safe. So I was really proud of that.
Absolutely. Another question, how many calls for service do we get in a day on average? And specifically, if you have it, this question is trying to stump you. How many calls regarding car accidents?
So the MVA one, I got to look up the analytics on the MVA, the car accidents. But when it comes to the particular call for service volume, so there's the eves and flows when it comes to the call for service volume. On a typical day in, say, the fall, when it's decent weather, you're looking at maybe 100 to 110 calls per day. But right now in the dead heat of summer, with motorcycles, with people being distracted, outings and whatnot, or different types of domestic issues, we're seeing right now on an average, I was just running these numbers, around 150 to 170 calls for services per day.
How soon will the test open to become a firefighter?
So
it's not entirely up to you, but
it's not up
a
to
little
me.
bit up to you.
We have a current list right now. That list expires the first week of October. The hope is to do another test starting next year in 2025, and that is our hope. And we're going to need another test because of the fact that we have a lot of people retiring next year. So 2025, stay tuned.
Another question was about, will the fire department, and I think you kind of answered this, but will the fire department be more active in the community and particularly towards the youth?
Yes, so that's a twofold question. And the answer to the first part is just yes. We have several events that's been rescheduled. We're gonna have AFD there as far as a med unit, as far as community service. We're going to have a footprint on each one of those locations at all the events this coming summer, including the marathons. And when you said, are we going to be getting in the schools? So what we do even now, we do community service. We go to the schools. I just looked at the analytics from our community service team. We've had, just in this year alone, over 7,000 touch points. That means either coming in contact with students, or doing presentations, doing demonstrations. We've had, that's something to clap at with the crew that we have. That's actually amazing. Over 7,000 touch points for different resources. And I couldn't be more proud of that. So I'm glad I looked at that yesterday. And the other part when it comes to school. So Seattle is the #1 EMS in the country. By far. They're doing things that are very progressive, forward-thinking. They've just been staple. And one of the things that got them as being at the forefront of EMS is they said they want to make Seattle the safest city in the country. They started teaching CPR in middle school. And then they started teaching CPR to anybody that can pass the test. So it's no age limit on when you can deliver CPR, but as long as you can actually deliver the chest compressions and you do the certification, you're certified. So I would love to bring that model to the city of Akron. And what that also does is, guess what? That teaches young kids it's much more gratifying and better to save a life than to take a life. It's better to save a life than to take a life. And if we are not teaching kids as early as possible to show them and teach them that skill set and then build upon that skill set, then guess what else that does? We will get back into thousands again when people want to come and take these jobs in public safety.
I think it's also important to, let kids know the seriousness of their actions, and for bad and for good, right? I mean, I think it always made an impression on me as a kid that, this CPR skill, that can save someone's life. It kind of seems like just like a boring thing, but it's like this can save a life.
Can I touch on that point you just talked about, before kids get into trouble or they have any issues? What I want to thank your predecessor, Mayor Horrigan. He saw that there was a problem when it came to public safety sector. He saw the fact at the time in 2017, going into 2018, with minority representation, I'm not going to give the police numbers, which I remember them, and Chief Harding was in that meeting with me. But the fire department at the time, we had hovering around 13%. And the mayor said, what can we do? He's formed a task force when it came to public safety, and that included the dispatch center. So he tasked us to go out and find best practices and what his administration could do to attract a more diverse workforce. So, as I said, I'm curious. And I went in, because I signed up to go to the military when I was 17 years of age. And I said, well, let me go see what the Department of Defense has when it comes to different best practices. Then I looked at other departments nationwide. And we lowered our age to 18. Our age was 21. It was with parity with police at the time to sign up for the fire department. And we lowered the age to 18. And what that enabled us to do was start recruiting in the high schools, gives no lag time where people have to make a choice between making a bad decision and a good decision to give them opportunity. And what we also did at the end of Mayor Horrigan's term, we actually even lowered it to 17. And what that did was allow young kids that were still in high school to take the civil service examination, which it was right around approximately 50 at the time. But that was 50 kids that we had an impact on, and now if they didn't get hired this particular time, at least they said, you know what, this is an avenue where we can actually look at in our future.
Absolutely. I think Mayor Horrigan didn't take you to lunch at Bilbo's, though, because it was closed.
No.
Yeah. So I'll stop with my Jimmy Kimmel impression here. Why does the fire department use encrypted radio communications?
So the reason why we use encrypted, and this is for anybody in public safety, we have a lot of sensitive information, and some information is private for that particular address that we may be going to. And nobody wants their neighbor to know their business. They may see a resource, a rig, or a police car at their home, but it's not their business. It's none of their business. And we use encrypted radios for security and for the privacy of our citizens in Akron.
Yep.
That was a great question.
Living in Kenmore, I was surrounded by illegal fireworks for 4 days. Could APD and Akron Fire collaborate on a strategy to better enforce our laws? Before you answer that, I'll just say from my point, I do think that I want to hear your answer, and I hope there is a strategy, but I do want to say that I think education and awareness is part of it. And there's a lot that can be solved by policy and programs and government. There's a lot that has to be done from a societal and cultural standpoint too. And we have to get people to a place where they are making the decision not to, set off a firework at 2 a.m. And thinking about how that's impacting kids or veterans or other folks. So.
No, that was a great answer, sir. And the answer is yes. The only problem is like chasing down a phantom, because when they hear a siren or they see the officers, it's going to cease. So we can go chasing down that rabbit hole. Let me tell you a personal story of what happened to me just recently. Saturday, there was these elaborate, loud fireworks in my neighborhood. And my wife said, "Leon, it's been 3 days. Can't you do something?" And it started on Thursday. She says, "Please, Abraham is going to wake up, and now we're not going to get any sleep. So can't you do something?" So I'm like, yeah, I better do something. It's been 3 days. So I got in my command vehicle, got dressed, got in my command vehicle. I stayed in my car, and I said, okay, it's going to pop up somewhere, because I'm thinking it's literally across the street from my home. It wasn't. It was literally that loud. So I see this big flare and this beautiful fireworks. It was beautiful. So I happen to drive down Newton, and then I realize it's like 80 people outside. They illegally blocked the streets. I mean, literally had a do not enter on the street. And I'm like, what the heck? I pulled up, I turned my lights on. The guy came up, he was nice. He said, "Is there a problem, Chief?" I said, "Yes, this is illegal." I said, "Shut this down." He said, "Oh yeah, we'll shut it down." I believe in trust but verify. So I drive to the corner at Goodyear and Newton. I said, well, let's see if they knock it off. And sure enough, they did not knock it off. So I called the police and I called a battalion, and it took that to actually shut it down. It took that joint response. So yes.
Well, I'm sorry for the situation you had to endure. I think, we're going to be continuing to talk about these large gatherings and how we can approach them from a safe perspective. That was actually all of the questions that we had. I do have a note here, that's an amendment here, that Fire Prevention Week is October 6th to 12th, and the week of October 9th is also Firefighter Memorial Week.
Yes.
And so before we close, do you have any closing comments you want to offer?
Yes, I do. I can't thank you enough for actually hosting these town halls. I am the first fire chief to ever do a town hall. And this is something I think the community, I know the community needs to hear from us. The community needs to know where their tax dollars are going. They need to understand what we're doing to try to keep them safe. And, we can have as many town halls as the community wants. I'm more than open to it. And if we want to do a joint town hall with Chief Harding and myself, we can even, I'm even open to that. And at the end of the day, we're here to help. So that's my closing statement, and thank you for coming. Thank the men and women that are doing hard work.
Thank you.
And it's not just the police and fire department, as a city as a whole, with the 2,000 personnel workforce that you have to manage. I think as an overall holistic approach that everyone's doing a great job in this city, and I just hope and pray everybody sees the hard work and the dedication that the city is actually doing to make sure we enrich your lives.
So yeah, if we can all give Chief Henderson a hand. And just in closing, I want to say, first, it appears I've found someone who is more aggressive about town halls than me, which is saying something. But no, I particularly want to thank a couple people in the audience. First, all of the city staff, but also our former chief, retired chief and current assistant to the mayor for emergency management, Joe Natko. Councilwoman Sharon Connor from City Council. A fellow Goodyear Heights resident.
Yes, my neighbor.
And I think she had to duck out, but our host here tonight, Pam Hickson Stevenson from the Akron Library. But yeah, I was sitting here and it's been a long day, so I was looking down and I said, why do I have 2 mics? But I think it's because we are streaming to Facebook. So I think, one thing is that this is available online. You can share it to folks. You can send it to folks if they want to learn a little bit more about what we do at Akron Fire. And we're excited and thankful to have you in this role.
Thank you.
Thankful, as you said, for the men and women of the Akron Fire Department, Akron Police Department, and all across city government.
Yes.
2,000 people waking up every day trying to make people's lives just a little better. So thank you so much, and thank you all for being here.